enthusiasm up after all this time?
One might sometimes wish it would go away, but it actually, that would be a kind of a false hope. If you look around, my particular kind of enthusiasm, the enthusiasm that people like me have, is very strange. It does not go away in any manner or form. I don't know why. I can remember going to I was in New York about 6-7 years ago, and someone said, oh, some band, Queen something over, Tigre or something. Jeff Travis.
Le Tigre?
Huh?
What was it?
What were they called? The girl singer?
Oh, Le Tigre.
Le Tigre.
Yeah.
They're playing someone said, oh my God, they're playing, Jeff's band are playing in some club on Avenue C. And so I go, oh, fucking hell, Alphabet Town. Everyone goes, no, because of Giuliano and stuff, Alphabet Town's now rather like Hampstead. So, sort of. Certainly, it's not like Alphabet Town was when I knew it, in the early 80s. And then, so we go to this gig, and we're in a dirty basement, watching a loud young rock band. And in this half-empty basement, against the bar was leaning Seymour. There was some 65-year-old geezer from CBS. And there were three old men who've been going in dirty basements since they were 17. And they still do it, just like I do it. So I have no idea why. It just doesn't stop. It's like, I recently got hold of McLaren's duet tracks, which have been, well, nothing's happened to them because he didn't clear the publishing properly. And he told Tom that he had done just a silver. But Malcolm's enthusiasm, even, and these are all my sort of heroes and mentors, people like Seymour or Malcolm. And so the answer to the question is, it is not surprising. These people in this particular part of the business, and in this particular business, the enthusiasm doesn't get any less. I think in some ways because there's another aspect for me, which is the joy you take in seeing a group grow. Not a group, it's the wrong word, it's a group. Seeing a group grow. My latest band are very to do with language, and they point out that they're not a band, which they're not. So, that way of working, where you watch a group grow, is just so wonderful. It's like watching a garden or a forest or something. And it has certain rhythms and whatever else. And you see it soft, you see it before. It doesn't make you not want to see it again. It makes you desperate to see it again. It makes you more wondering at it.
Is it going to be conceptualised this time, or is it just going to be the music speaking for itself, or?
It was never conceptualised.
It was a sort of concept. There was an idea to fashion.
Never.
It seemed like from the outside.
No, only from the outside.
Yeah. So it was
from the outside. Never. Everything was pure accident. I mean, there is only one. The way factory worked, the way all my partners worked, and the way I work now with Tom, is you do what you want. So, if afterwards it looks like there's a plan or an idea, that's fine. But there is no idea or plan in any way whatsoever. It's just, I mean, if you look at the website, which will be launched next week on the 21st, it's supposed to go live. Says he's now thinking, we're 5 minutes in, and I want to make a phone call and see if the
if you want to check it,
the download site. The download site. No, okay, just very quickly. Theoretical underpinnings on the description page. Tom, just think. If you look on the site, it has two, what you might call theoretical underpinnings. One is a wonderful quote that Warren found, and Warren had co-founded F4 Red Sellers, but then found himself too busy with his own company. But Warren found this quote from Sam Phillips about, I can't remember what it was, allowing musicians the space to experiment, the freedom to find what they want to do and the rest of it. And that's always been a factory thing, I suppose. Musicians have their rights to do what they want, even though we always say musicians do whatever they want. But if it's not what we want, they're going to get their ears fucking burned for about 4 to 6 months. We're going to get moaned at, whinged at, whined at. So, then you can do what you want, but you're going to have to fucking listen to a lot of fucking grief to months. No, just grief. It's like, Yeah, we know you're great producers. You know Blue Monday sold a lot of records, but he's a great producer. Don't want to use him. He's a great fucking producer. Don't want to use him. This went on for 9 months before Tennessee and I won the battle, and he was sort of true faith.
Yeah.
Because obviously before Stephen Hague, they didn't want to use a producer. So that's how we've always worked. So that's one side of it. It's giving the artists their freedom to experiment, but also giving them. But the second line is, which is Rob Gretton's description of how it works. I just buy out some records and mates, which which is what it is.
Yeah. So somewhere it's a mixture of the two.
No, it's good. Yeah. I think they're the same thing. I just thought it's an easy thing. Yes.
So in between Factory and F4, there was the download thing you did. Whatever happened to that?
Oh yeah, well no, it was too early. M33.com was for about 6 months was the only fully operational download site, certainly in Europe. I don't know about America, but with fully working encryption and fully working micropayments and a good business model. And what happened to that was our business partners were Barclays Merchant Services, who were utterly brilliant, who had the correct vision of the future, and they spent a lot of money and pioneered it, and we were probably one of their only working outlets. And it was, I think it was, we've now been proved theoretically correct. I know iTunes charged 99 cents, which is about 60p, but recently Real Player put tracks up at 50 cents, which is 33p. It was like, it was something that Yvette and I, driving along Santa Monica Freeway, however many years ago, having just bought our first, what the fuck was the player? It was a Rio, was it? A little MP3 player. And just dreaming about this, and we tried to work out what we should charge for a song. And we reckoned that when you remove packaging costs, distribution costs, shop costs, all these things, and then add in the internet costs, a song shouldn't cost £1, which it does now, like £12 for a CD. A song should cost a third of that, and still make as much money as ever before for the artist and for the writer. So the fact that Real Player now, very early into this culture, has charged 50 cents. However, I think Factory in general, and myself in particular, it's a great example of being right, being early, does not make you rich.
No.
Being late and clever does make you rich. So
some of that come on board F4 then?
Well, no, it's just that the world has moved on now. I mean, there's no point us doing it ourselves, having created it ourselves many years ago. What happened to that was there was an American firm who provided the encryption engine. And after about 9 months, they came to us and said, instead of wrapping your songs at base, we're going to give you the software, and it will wrap on the fly. So as the download goes out, it gets encrypted with a PDF file wrapping, as it's called. And £110,000 bits. So we said, we haven't got 110p. We just did all this, off our own enthusiasm with no money and no backing. So fuck off. They then went to Northampton to Barclays Merchant Services and said, give us £110,000. And Barclays Merchant Services, who do Barclaycard, said fuck off. So the Americans withdrew, closed down and that's the thing finished. And tragically, that was Barclays' great experiment, and Barclays were completely right. I mean, one day we will have, and there's PayPal, and there's other little bits and pieces, and there's even a little Manchester company do a very nice thing called something Till. What's it called? Anyway, the Manchester company who do a mobile phone service payment system, but there is no universal system. At the moment, you have a universal system in your pocket. It's called money. Before that, it used to be barter. And at some point, in the next 10 years, there will be some kind of money for spending on the internet. There'll be a simple way of doing it. At the moment, it's a bit prohibitive, and we're still somewhat held back by the telcos. The telcos charge far too high a proportion of the transaction, and that's the logical way to go. I mean, I think it was about 4 years ago that we suddenly realised that we didn't know where we were going because we had mobile phones paid for by the businesses and by ourselves on a monthly credit card. Our children, who have to pay as you go, they understood where it was going. The pay as you go card, in some way, we also thought would be one of the solutions to micropayments. That hasn't happened either. So that was where M33 went. It was right, it was ahead of its time, and now for £500, my old label boss at Pinnacle, Dominic, who's now New Technology Pinnacle, can build me a download site with, well, we design it, but he builds the engine, which will sell songs at 99p.
So in line to that, is there 4 different, is the role of record label changed?
No.
Lots?
No, I don't think so at all. I think everybody's dream, all my friends' dream when the internet came along and this thing in the mid-90s, in the early 90s, was, oh my God, this will change everything, isn't it wonderful? And I was always a bit suspicious of that. To me, it was just what we look out on down here, which is the Duke of Bridgewater's canal. The Duke of Bridgewater got jilted by his girlfriend, took a holiday in the south of France, and saw the Canal de Midi, and thought, ooh, canals. Ooh, that would lower the cost of getting my coal from Worsley to the booming city of Manchester. And that's exactly what the internet is. It lowers the cost of getting the song from whoever's selling it to the kid. And that is the one thing, but it's still the same formula. And everybody dreamed, a lot of people, like Malcolm Garrett from Manchester, the Buzzcocks designer. Malcolm was working with us on Music 33 8 years ago. I remember him sort of shouting, "This is it, man, this is where we all started, this is punk. Last week, the musicians can take over, fuck the record companies." And I'm going, I'd love that, Malcolm, but I'm not quite sure. And the great pioneer in America was Marc Geiger. And Marc Geiger was a young agent who was all of our agents. He was New Order's agent, Echo and the Bunnymen's agent, every Alan McGee band's agent. Mark was everyone's best mate in LA, best agent. Created Lollapalooza with Perry and my partner Tom. And got so famous, got taken on as head of A&R for American Recordings by Rick, who he was very close to. But spent his time building the Unlimited the Artist Database, whatever, ILDMB or whatever it was called in those early days, and then set up Artist Direct. So Artist Direct was the biggest non-corporate IPO in internet music. Although on the day he IPO'd, that morning, he actually rang the bell at the NASDAQ. But at 5 to 8 that morning, while they were all drinking champagne on Times Square, the business report from CNN announced the boom was over. So it coincided with the end of the boom. And also, he thought, that's why I called it Artist Direct, that somehow you would cut out the record companies and the artists could deliver their music straight to the punter.
Yeah.
Lovely idea, idealistic, and totally wrong-headed. And about 2 years later, sitting having a coffee on the balcony of Chateau Marmont, he said to me in Yvette, "Oh, you were fucking right, man, I said, I know. And the point is that any band that makes it on the internet and began to be successful
Got signed up.
would bite off the hand of any record company. Musicians, 99% would not value the freedom, they value the check from the major record company. So nothing changed. So those dreams have gone, but it just, now knowing all this, but not having a record company for 5 years, you come back into it and it's wonderful. There's just more opportunities, more things to do.
What kind of ways it changed in 5 years?
Well, just the download side of it. So, for example, I have limited funding. I have enough for one band, and that band will then do as Joy Division did before. We'll create funding to do other things. But because I have to have a download site for Raw T, I can suddenly offer assistance to my original guitarist Vini, who was at the time looking for a way of releasing his music that was sensible. And for him, if you're going to sell 5,000-10,000 albums, only the distribution, the origination costs in terms of the economics make it quite difficult. Whereas to do things digitally makes sense for Vini. It was something I was thinking about for him while I was away in Peru before Christmas, and came back to say you should do your stuff. You should release your new stuff on downloads, and at the same time, I was not thinking about my site, and suddenly I realised that we had a site that could provide it for him. And then there's a band that I'm very fond of, a brand new band out of Manchester called Young Offenders Institute, who are wonderful. And I don't have the money to record an album and market an album and stuff, and I'm up to my neck with raw tea, which is where I want to be. But I'm able to say to them, you know, I can't sign you physically, more than that. But, you know, I'll be your digital label. I've got no money, but we'll provide the service so people can at this moment in time get your songs, which was the whole point of independent distribution, to make songs available.
So originally the label, you're just going to do raw tea?
Yes.
And try and break them before you sign other things? So.
No, if I found the right thing, I could go back to my backers and I've been very enamoured of the Longcut for about a year.
Yeah, they're great, aren't they?
Been very enamoured of the Longcut. I think more than a year, actually. In Tractor City, Liverpool, just over a year. And because they had a singles deal with Alan, who I'm very fond of, I felt duty bound not to step on toes. I looked at it, went back and forth, and finally, I heard they were talking to all the majors and everybody, and finally 2 weeks ago I finally rang up their manager, and he told me he was signing to go to Sonic. I said, fine, very good, I don't even ask, you know, that's fine. You know, I haven't discovered them first. But if I saw a band like that again, yes, I don't know. That's a hypothetical question. I don't know. I think the Longcut are very special, but
yeah, because they're an echo of obviously Joy Division, but kind of.
they are. I mean, that's the one. They're a modern version of that. That's the one reason why I don't feel completely heartbroken, because it would be a bit. You know, I find it very exciting. It's funny. What I seem to be doing now, which is working with raw tea, seems to be rather alien. But in a way, that couldn't be farther from the truth, in the sense that I did try to sign Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five in 1980, which was fairly advanced, purely because I'd taken a box of our first 10 records to New York with me, just after Ian died, to try and rearrange an East Coast tour after their American tour. That was not happened. I wanted to give our first 10 records, including Unknown Pleasures, to one American record company first. So I got there, I didn't know who, and my friend Mr. Travis was in New York, and I rang him on a phone somewhere in the East, it's always in the East Village, isn't it? And in the phone box, and he said, I'm going around to Christgau's tonight, come and join me. He'll give you the answer. So I went round to Robert Christgau's house, a flat, very tiny flat in Gramercy Park. And Christgau said, the most wonderful person in the American record industry is Karen Bird at Warner Brothers. And the next day I went to Macy's and took an hour having the gift wrapping department, wrapping all the records in beautiful sort of tissue paper, putting them in a gift box, and taking them to this wonderful lady Karen Berg at Warner Brothers, beginning my sort of 10, 12-year relationship with Warner Brothers. That was great. But also that night, Christgau was playing us these tapes of this weird stuff. It sounded a bit like The Last Poets from the performance album, but was this new stuff. I don't think the word rap was even used then, coming out of Brooklyn or something. And so I got some details, and back in Manchester a week later, I rang up this record shop in Harlem to try and sign up Grandmaster Flash. I was told to fuck off Whiting. So I go back to 80 on that one, and strangely, when I saw Raw Tea the first time, that was September 2003 in the City on Time. The second thing, after being completely captivated by their physicality and their eyes, just in exactly the same way as a Joy Division.
What kind of way?
There's an intensity.
Yeah.
An intensity that you see in all great acts. And it's the George Martin school of A&R. I always thought I was nuts. People say, why do you sign bands? I would say, because the way they stand in the room. Just the way they stand. Which is pretty fucking stupid, but after times you follow that, then a couple of months later you find out they can write wonderful tunes and have wonderful lyrics. But I always think a bit insane until I was listening about 5 years ago to Desert Island Discs driving along with George Martin, and Sue Lawley says, so when Epstein was touting the Beatles around London, no one liked the tapes, did they? She went, oh no, everyone fucking hated them. Crap. But you loved them. Oh no, I thought they were crap too. And Sue Lawley, you can almost hear her falling off the chair on the radio. Then why did you sign them? It's the way they stood in the room. I actually stopped my fucking car and jumped up and down in the air with delight. I thought it was fantastic. But that was the first thing. The second thing was, I don't have any idea why, but there were certain rhythms to it, to the language, that reminded me of the Last Poets. God knows what. So anyway, that was the Last Poets.
I guess it's descendants.
Well, they are, but I'm sure they don't even have the foggiest idea. No. They hadn't even heard of Joy Division, and the great thing was, I'm the foggiest idea the fuck I am. In fact, someone had to show them 24-hour party people about 2 months ago, after a year of working with them.
Why, did that make a difference?
Yeah, they want to know, did the prostitutes really give the head in the back of the van, which is the same old question.
That's the bit they took from the film.
That's the bit they took from the film, yeah. Yeah, fantastic.
So what's your relationship with them like then? It's quite different culturally, age-wise, everything, isn't it, really?
It's no different than any relationship with your artist. It's kind of, I'm a typical English record company boss, in that my core relationship is with the manager or managers, and that's the English system. In Europe, you always find that the bosses in Europe go to dinner and are very close to the musicians. In England, well, for me, I'm like mates with the band. I'm friends, but the working relationship is with Attilia and Melbo, with the two managers. So, I don't know, I find good, being with them, I find it utterly wonderful, because they're just this sort of gun spatter of language, just blah, a few months ago I was saying something, and Dreddy went blah blah, I know, and I thought, and blah blah apparently means is approval. And I was out with them last night, and someone was talking about some guy, well, fucking Bocat, or blah. I'm going, yes, why is, because there's a wonderful track on the album where they talk about street slang, and they give you a quick guide to street slang, and a Bocat is someone who licks out pussy. Now, why someone who licks out pussy is a Bocat? And I keep asking them this, and they just laugh in my face. So I never get an answer to the language.
Like you should know the language.
Well, no, just who gives a fuck whether you know or not? It's just a joke. So
you've always liked lyrics, haven't you?
I've always adored
don't
lyrics.
care about lyrics, do they? It just seems strange to me.
It's the glory of rock and roll is that both go together. No, and then the very first, so going with Raw T, and actually not signing them originally, thinking that, because all the majors saw the same thing, because it was in the city. This wasn't just me at a little gig in Manchester somewhere, it was an in the city gig, and all the majors saw them, and they all got very excited, because they are very exciting. So I presume that my role would be, and this comes back to where it is very much factory, I presume my role would be as a friend, because my son was their mate, and also my son's mentor was Attilia, one of the two managers, who looked after him in his early teenage years, when he was actually a jungle promoter when he was about 14, under her auspices, under her wing. So I thought my job would be...
See the initial connection there?
Yes, he told me in effect to go and see him.
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't go to see him.
So people in the city did film? So they played the new band thing?
They played the new band thing? No, I think Tom did.
Right.
Attilia dropped off a tape and they said blah blah blah. So I think Tom Clark and Phil Sachs get the credit for that, I suppose. No, but I'd never go and see an English rap band. I can't fucking stand it. The last band before Raw T I wanted to sign that would have started me again in the business was The Music. My love affair with The Music is well documented. Before that, a year and a half before that, which is now about 5-6 years ago, I was in love with a band called King Rib. King Rib were 4 Manchester white boys from Manchester University playing drum and bass. And playing drum and bass with jazz inflections. And I fucking hate jazz with a passion. And yet, I absolutely loved this. That was how good they were, that I could even their jazz bits, they were utterly wonderful. But they could never find the right lead singer. Maybe they should have. Jenna used to sing once or twice with them, and maybe we should have gone with Jenna rather than let Jenna go on to Uncut. But other than that, they'd have rappers. They were all right. but they were all English rappers, black or white, inauthentic, American-sounding bombs. And I was always waiting for Kingwood to find their right frontman. And instead they found a completely different frontman and became Simeon. And bye-bye.
Yeah.
I'm sure you and I both feel the same about Simeon.
Yeah, not very interesting. No.
Lounge music has its place, probably in someone, not my lounge. So, I would never have gone to see an English rap band because English kids rapping.
It's not good, it's weird, it's very American.
It's crap.
It's French good at it.
Yes, the French are. We're not. So,
why do you think it's not a strong position in the UK? I mean, a lot of kids love rap music, don't they? Or do you think we just turned it into something?
well, no, now it's changing. Obviously with Dizzy, Mike Skinner, Raw T. And if you look at Channel U now, 2 years ago, you look at MTV Bass, and there's these wonderful hip hop, videos, £200,000 great hip hop videos, and nothing from England or some crap from England. Now, you switch between Channel U with English, cheap, low budget hip hop, modern British hip hop, and you switch to MTV Bass, and MTV Bass is changing now and catching up. And you switch and you see the sort of $200,000 bling hip hop video. It's the English thing that looks real, and it's the American stuff that looks inauthentic bollocks. It's this really weird thing because suddenly, I think it's through. I mean, I don't know this, but I'm kind of quoting Sefton, who runs the studio and co-produced the Royalty album. Sefton was saying to me that it's been the development of garage music and the development of the actual music that has been the background to British kids finding their own voice. And certainly in the case of, you've had Disney, and the fact that England hasn't done this yet, the fact that a year ago in the Sunday Times, was it David Sinclair did a big article all about the dominance of American black music and all about Matthew Knowles, who I love. But the very same week, in the New Yorker, the best magazine in the world, the week after they broke the Abu Ghraib story, they did a double piece about Skinner and Dizzy with an Abaddon photograph just before Abaddon died, and it was saying that British hip hop has suddenly found its own voice, which it has. And whether it comes through the musical side of it, but certainly they're using their own accents, their own culture. It's alive. But to go back to the other question is, and why it is very Factory, is Factory and all its members were always obsessed with the absence of black music in Manchester. So
There was people doing rap before. I mean, rap stars, weren't they?
they were. No, they're not. That's the whole point. Where? What? They fucked up. All Manchester black acts fuck up.
And they fucked up when they were good when they started, weren't
Yeah,
they?
but they fucked up.
Yeah.
That's the whole point. They always fuck up. So I can remember as a journalist being annoyed when reggae was the chill out music for punk, and you had Aswad and Black Spirit burning, all that stuff in 77, 78. And here's my side, what the fuck is happening? And I ended up making a film about this, saying why is it not happening? And I can remember interviewing, this is in 78, the bass player from Exodus against the wall of the Russell Club. And his explanation was, oh man, we all fall out, You go into somebody's house, someone puts a record on, it's the wrong fucking record. And I said, okay, fine. A year later, Factory did put out their only record, and I actually went a lot of work on that, going to London to get Dennis Bavell to produce it. It's called English Black Boys and was wonderful. But then they broke up, typical. And then we had 52nd Street, who were Withenshaw, modern black soul music. And the very first moment anything happened, and we got them a singles deal in America with A&M, they got full of themselves, argued with each other, and broke up. They went. Robb was so obsessed that in the late 80s, in the mid 80s, Robb found Marcel King sleeping in the back of a car somewhere in Chorlton. And obviously, the last time we had success in this town was Cleopatra, I suppose. Before Cleopatra, it was Sweet Sensation in 1970, the first, whatever date it was, the first British black artist ever to be on top of the pops, with his 10-year-old kid Marcel King singing Sad Sweet Dreamer.
Yeah.
And then nothing. And then 15 years later, Robb finds in the back of a car, says we'll do a record with you, and gets Bernard to do Reach Out for Love, which is one of, any Factory, people who think about Factory may like Kinky Afro or Love Will Tear Us Apart. got real factory fans. Reach Out for Love by Marcel King, produced by Brendan Sumner, is one of the high spots of the entire collection. But that was it, one single, and then Marcel disappeared again. He finally got shot and died. And then Robb in the late 80s insisted we put £10,000 into some guy who turned up with a reggae label from Moss Side, so we spent £10,000 on it. 10,000 views from the album. We produced 3,000 albums. It's called Band Records or something, or Amp Records, fuck knows. And this guy said he knew all about how to sell reggae records, so we gave him 2,000 records. We put £2,000 into our 2,000 records into our system. That was it, nothing happened. And 2 years later I met him in the reception of an hour and said, oh hello. He said, hello, you ripped me off. I'm thinking, I spent £20,000 on you and you fucked off. Anyway, never mind. So,
it is a very erratic history, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. But the fact that, particularly for Robb, he was obsessed with this, because as we all know, black music is the heart of rock and roll. And it's always been there, and I was always trying and failed. And so it fits, strangely, this fits very much into my general history.
So you think finally Royalties will be the one that makes
I hope so. Certainly they have all those things that I've come across before, which is the vision or whatever else. And then what happens is when you see this look in their eyes and the way they stand and you get involved with them, then later you find that there are these wonderful melodies, there are these wonderful lyrics. And the first time I went in studio with Raw Team, just to do a test out of a studio setup, I was just amazed. They turned up with their instruments, and their instruments are reporters' notebooks. And all four boys spend the whole time what they call spitting, scribbling, writing poetry. And I'm always astonished. And last night, walking to some crappy gig somewhere where the mic didn't work, they were just to watch them talk about one of the songs they're going to do, and go, I'll do the third verse, and they're just all doing it. And I just find it remarkable. In fact, I've just booked ourselves in to do the Hey on Wine Literary Festival.
That's cool.
And it's great. I mean, they're just going. Well, the last time I did this one was I put in support to the Happy Mondays on Clapham Common, which was a disaster. So this could be weird as well. But I just fancy the Hey on Wine because they're poets. They're absolute poets, and also the sense
is that what they get from you, that you get into a different context?
No, I don't think so. They do, and they don't like it because I mean, me putting them on at fucking Clapham Common with 10,000 morons. It's the same everywhere, isn't it? Particularly in London, idiots who are there just for the main band. It's like one of the prides of being a Ginny. Where was I going there?
Clapham Common, Mancunians.
Oh yeah, no, not Mancunians. One of the great joys of Manchester opposed to London was that Mike Pickering, when he played house music at the Astoria in February 1988, got bottled off stage. Suicide. When Suicide had played the Russell Club in Manchester, and when they supported the Clash in Manchester, there was they were more applauded than the Clash. But in London, they were bottled off stage. Suicide were bottled off stage because we're here for the Clash. And the same thing happened to Raw T. We're here for the Happy Mondays. Fuck off, blah blah blah. What's this? What are these four fucking black boys doing hip hop? How dare they get in the way of my afternoon? Which was me being, in fact, and the boys thought it was racism. People throwing bottles of water at them. I thought it wasn't. It's just typical stupid people wanting their main band, and everything else gets in the way. And it's my own fault, I should remember. So, but they're now very wary of me.
Right.
They're very wary of my choice of things, suggestions
to get books thrown at them.
Yes, exactly. Fucking hell. So, but I think, well, no, I was talking to Richard Curtis. I did a show with him just before Christmas about language and about, certainly in terms of language, and they call it rhyming. I mean, there's a wonderful Missy Elliott shouts at Eminem on one of the albums, rhyme me some more, rhyme me. And it's rhyme, and it makes you think about rhyme. I mean, often rhyme doesn't work in couplets. Some of the, crappiest Shakespeare stuff is actually romantic comedies with just simple couplets in. But rhyme has a strange effect on the human brain. And when I listen to Raw T and these rhymes go on and on, It's as if they're battering meaning into your head. I just find it fascinating. We're talking to Curtis about all this, and he'd noticed and was, Curtis is the guy who wrote Notting Hill and Four Weddings. And he had, like me, fallen in love with just one word. Well, the rest of Mike Skinner's great, but the use of the word and the way he says ITV, it's just so exact. That word, it kind of explodes. It's so council estate, so ordinary Britain. So Curtis has spotted that as well. So no, just a fascination with that. And I found for me, after that first day of studio watching, I thought, my God, how life comes full circle. I mean, I always say I began, we all did it for different reasons. Alan because he wanted to manage a band, Savile he wanted to just be a designer. Martin and anyone who would give him studio time to dream his thoughts, and Robb just to avoid working in the insurance office. But for me, it was always a continuation of Oxbridge, of being a student of art, and therefore suddenly to come full circle, having done English university and found myself in effect selling poetry. I just think it's just fantastic.
So where do Young Offenders fit into this then?
Young Offenders, but they're completely different. But there is this undeniable ability of, it's a Mancunian working class thing, the ability to write big dumb songs. And they write very big dumb songs in the manner of an Oasis, which is just very strange. And they're quite remarkable characters. I also love the structure on stage, in the sense that there's the lead singer and the lead guitarist. It's like this. The other guys are going to be good as well. But it's like this two-handed sort of two-handed front imagery, whatever. And they just write these undeniably wonderful big dumb songs. And you hear the song once, and you want to hear it again and again.
It seems very different from what's going on at the moment. At the moment, British music is very kind of melancholic, miserable, indie shy, really, isn't it?
I think British music, the British white boys with guitar music, seems, and some of them do it very, very well. I mean, I would love to dislike Franz Ferdinand, but I can't.
Well, they're just a great band now.
They're just a great band, full stop. So you can't knock that. But generally, it's like, I got tired of hearing about Joy Division and Gang of Four and stuff like that. It's like, fine, I even played on stage with the Gang of Four when I was Tiller Boys roadie in a gig in New York in 1980. So I mean, fine, Gang of Four, wonderful, Armalite Rifle, etc., etc. But what's new? Where's something new? And to be honest, the British rock that I've liked in the last few years has been my daughter's bands, Funeral for a Friend and Lost Prophets, who I think have done what I dreamt of, which is they've absorbed American new metal and
Anglicised
and given it an English twist, a bit of irony, a bit of self. And I prefer that more to the old-fashioned indie rock of the Kasabians and everybody else, the Enemy Tribe. Also, I found the Libertines utterly without value whatsoever. I actually did go and buy the album, but I make an effort. After about 4 numbers, I just took it up. It's just impossible. Utter crap. So, at the moment, I'm in this strange space which I much prefer. At the moment. I watch
the Maverick side of thing, or
no,
I was deliberately going against.
No, not at all. It's what I'm not going against. I happen to be, by accident, fallen into what I regard as the major cultural event in British music, which is British black youth finding their own voice. I think it's amazing. But as I say,
But with Young Offenders,
the fact is, there's always going to be other stuff that's interesting, and if you can provide a channel for them, I mean, it's the job of people who can't make art like me. The one thing you can do is find these young people a route to market. So in one way, I can help young offenders, which is great.
I think being based in Manchester is good for a label, because I think in London can tend to chase what they think the scene is, whereas up here it's more about the music.
Yes, I mean that's why I don't stay in Manchester because I'm altruistic. I love my town. I don't stay because I fucking love it. You know, I should have gone to London, and I might still go to London for my television career if I could be bothered. But my real career is in music, and I always say, why would a farmer move to worse pastures? You know, it's like, so I don't stay here altruistically. I love my town, but I stay here completely selfishly. You know, and sure enough, you know, there was King Rib and then nothing much else for a long while, and then suddenly Raw Tea out of the blue. It's Moss Side OT of all places. Jesus Christ.
What about Vini? Do you always sign in to every label you've heard?
No, I don't. Not at all. No, Vini and I fell out very badly for 5 years.
Yeah.
I didn't talk because he behaved like a complete utter twat, which a lot of musicians are. And Vini is a great musician. He's a great fucking twat, and behaved appallingly. And that was it. Bye bye. I put up with your behaviour for many years because you're a genius. Because it hit other people, not me. And finally, it hit me. I thought, oh, fuck you. But you get over these things, and then he just asked advice one day, and it was thinking about when I realised my advice to him was going to be release your stuff digitally, because Vini in a way has always been technically on the technical edge, as it were. The first indie CD only release in Europe, or the first CD only release in Europe. The first commercial DAT release in Europe, and stuff like that, all that kind of crap. So it's appropriate to do downloads with it. So then I realised, well, you know, I want to have a download engine so I can help you. It's just interesting. It makes the site more interesting. You know, I mean, there's no connection between Raw Tea, Column, and Young Offenders, but you know, maybe there wasn't between Orchestral Manoeuvres in the Dark and in a certain ratio.
And Exodus, it was quite a spec.
Yes, it was. Yes, exactly. So. Never an issue.
Yeah.
As long as it's honest. And as long as the people aren't. As long as it's not pop music yet.
As in?
Well, it's not pop music yet.
It hasn't got big yet, or?
No, it becomes pop music when it becomes self-consciously pop singles and stuff, which I've never been very good at. That's a shite at.
There's some great singles on Factory over the years, isn't there?
Oh yeah.
I mean, you're shit at picking them.
Oh yeah, I couldn't pick a single. I couldn't pick a single to save my life. I always think I'm one of the best people in the world spotting bands or artists. I'm utterly shy to spot choosing. So I remember when Kinky Afro came out, I thought, why have you chosen Kinky Afro to single? Oh, it's track one on the album. Well, that's quite fair enough. And now I give lectures on Kinky Afro, just a song, because it's one of the great songs of history.
Oh yeah. Yeah. When you look back at actually, what do you think now? Do you think it's just a lot of chaos, or?
No, I think it was just fabulous.
Do you regret it going belly up?
No, you don't regret anything, because if you change anything, then everything changes. If you did it differently, then everything would change. I do look now, actually. What's the interest rate today? 4.5%?
I don't know, I don't follow business.
Yeah, it's 4.5% or something. But that's meant to be quite high, they're worried about it moving up to 5%. Well, in fact, you went bump, it was 15%. You know, so it's quite funny to think that really one was fucked by bad Tory economics. But no, I don't regret anything. I mean, just an amazing rollercoaster ride. Amazingly privileged to work with all the bands, in particular Joy Division, New Order, and the Mondays, and now to work with this lot. I am kind of quite bewildered at how lucky I am in that sense. And then, on the other hand, I'm always bewildered how unlucky I am, and how everything Transmission should have been a #1 single and should have sold 1.5 million. And when Raw Tea finished their album, and sitting around the studio knowing they created a wonderful first album, I went out and bought a copy of Transmission from a second-hand shop for £5. I went in and said, right guys, you're very lucky because your record company boss was responsible for this record. This record, I was waving it, one with the red sort of sleeve. This record is now seen as one of the great singles, Dance, Dance, Dance to the Radio. And when I first heard it, Dance, Dance, Dance to the Radio, my God, Radio 1 could play this. I pressed 10,000. I even went to London, got a plugger, came back that night for a meeting in Martin Allen's flat, and was told by my 4 partners, no, we don't do plugging. You know. So, but I pressed 10,000 of these, and you are now looking at a guy who had to watch 9,000 of these in a pallet for 7 months, because they only sold 1,000.
Yeah.
And seeing 9,000 copies of a great piece of art that you can't fucking sell and no one wants is so upsetting, but it teaches you a lesson. The even worse thing was, I always tell people, was that the pallet next to it was warm leatherette by the normal.
Yeah.
And that began with 9,000 in the pallet. And Daniel's pallet was going down every month quicker than mine was. I was very pissed off. But anyway, it takes time for the world to get around to it.
So you're just basically telling the world it might not be that fast.
It won't be that fast, even though we know it should be that fast.
Yeah.
The world takes its time.
You've got to be patient. They're coming from a different angle, aren't they?
Yeah.
It's cool. That's